Now, tradition says, we don't know if this is true or not. This is just a total aside. But there are teachings that say that this is what happened. As Moses was a boy growing up in Pharaoh's house, he used to be somewhat mischievous. He liked to play pranks on the priests and the others around him. And one day some of them came to Pharaoh and said, Pharaoh, he's got to stop. Someone's going to get hurt. And Pharaoh said, he'll stop when he learns. And he doesn't learn, until something happens. He said, let me show you. And Pharaoh took a golden pear and placed it down here. And he took a hot coal out of the censer and he placed it here. And he put Moses in front of it with Moses giving the choice. And Moses took the coal and slid it into his mouth and did permanent damage to his mouth. That's why we come here and he was slow of speech. I don't know if it's true or not. But I do know that sometimes that's how we learn things. It's possible. But he's saying to God, I can't do it. You can hear the way I talk. I can't do it. I can't do it. Probably the number one excuse any of us ever give is I can't. I can't. I have a friend of ours down in Florida at our church down there that his name is Floyd Williams. And Floyd has done something, and when I first started to talk to Floyd, back when we first started to meet him, he was always very upbeat. He said one of the things he did is he removed the word can't from his vocabulary, never used it. Just didn't use it. He would never say, I can't. Now, me personally, I can't do that. But I'm glad some of you laughed about that because they didn't get it in the first service. He really did, though. And as a result, he would say, I'll try, I'll do it. He would never say, I can't. That's what God is looking for. People that are willing to say, I'll do it. Not even I'll try, but I'll do it because I know God's going to do it through me. Moses was saying, I can't do it. I'm slow of speech. And God's answer for that was, guess what? I'm going to give you the ability to do it. I'm going to provide you with the ability. In fact, what God's going to say here is God's going to say, guess what? I've got a plan even for that. In sales, we were taught to overcome objections and to try to overcome them before the objection was given. For example, whatever they might say, this is the reason they're not going to write you a check for today. Well, we try to overcome that. God already had this at work. God's plan is this. Your brother's a pretty good speaker. Old Aaron is eloquent. And guess what? He's going to go with you. And you're going to tell him what to say, just like I'm telling you. And we're going to deal with that objection. See, God's got a plan. For every excuse, God has an answer. So why bother with the excuses? Fifth excuse. Now, up until this point, God's been pretty patient. It's great, isn't it, that God is patient, by the way? God has been going with the flow. Here's where it says, and God's anger kindled against Moses. Moses comes up with his fifth and final excuse. Now, it may not sound like much of an excuse. What he says literally is Lord, send the message by whatever means you want. But what he's really saying is, Lord, send somebody else. Get old Joe to do it. I don't want to go. I like it out here in the wilderness. Send somebody. There must be someone else. Send somebody else. Send Gary. Gary's tough and strong. I can't hardly talk. Send Chris. I don't want to go. Send someone else. That's really a lot of times what we say. God, there's someone else that can go on Thursday night. There's someone else that can be down there on Wednesday night. By the way, we talked about Thursday night with Awanas, but we got Wednesday night with children's choir that these kids the numbers are growing exponentially. Send someone else. There's someone else for it. Someone else that can do it. Let someone else go. And God's anger kindled against Moses. And he says, now go. There comes a point where our excuses fall so far short that it's simply just time to go by faith. And so Moses goes to his father-in-law and to his wife and says, God has called me to go. I want to ask you a question today. In the movies and the television show, whichever one, Mission Impossible, however they got the message delivered, whether it was special glasses or a bird flowing in, landing on a perch or whatever it was, it always said something like this: your mission, should you choose to accept it. Now, it also always said this message will self-destruct. We won't go that far. But your mission, should you choose to accept it, is this: God has a call in your life. If you're a follower of God, God has gifted you according to how He wants to use you in His call for your life. Whether it's in music, in teaching, in preaching, in evangelism, in cleaning. Whatever it is, God has a call that you are custom fit to fulfill. And no one else will do it like you've done it. God has that giftedness in you. And here's what He's saying: your mission, should you choose to accept it. I almost sometimes wish He didn't say it that way. But you know what? Even with Moses, God never removed the choice. Moses could have left Mount Horeb. He could have walked away from that burning bush, slipped his sandals back on his feet, gone back out to his flock of sheep, and walked them down off that mountain. He could have done it. He could have gone back to Zipporah. He could have gone back to his father-in-law Jethro and gone on like nothing had ever happened. And I believe millions upon millions of people do just that. God will still accomplish what He wants to accomplish. But we're always given the choice. Your mission, should you choose to accept it. And you fill in the blank with that. Whatever it is that God's calling you to right now, you've been coming up with the excuses. I don't have the time. I don't have the energy. I don't have the knowledge. I can't. I don't wanna. Your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to respond to God's call. Now, I'm grateful that Moses did. As we look into these next few weeks together and we see what God does, I just can't fathom what it would have been like to have been Moses. Someday later on, word comes out there, way out there to Midian again. It travels down through the grapevine, and Moses is out there with Jethro's sheep still. But he hears, maybe his brother Aaron answered the call. And he hears about how Aaron was there and the Red Sea parted. He hears about how the sea came back and crossed and drowned all of the Egyptian army. He hears about how God turned bitter water sweet. He hears about how enough food fell for the nation of Israel every day from heaven in the manna and in the quail. He hears about how somehow over the course of years their clothes didn't wear out. He hears about those things and he thinks, man, I wish I could have been a part of that. And the answer is he could have been, but he wasn't. God help us that there won't come a time in our lives where we look back and think, I could have been a part of that, but I was afraid to answer the call.